Holocaust happened. That isn't opinion, that's fact. And I won't debate fact.
According to the evidence I've seen, there were no gas chambers anywhere at Auschwitz.
Irving's just sent us notice of a suit to be filed in the High Court.
When I wrote my book, it was a way for me at last to speak about what happened, how I felt about what happened, and to lay it out. It's a very cathartic experience. Little did I, when I finished it and it came out, and great reviews and great attention, I thought that was the end of the story. Little did I think there would be another segment, another saga.
I'm the innocent party. A man accuses you of something and it's your job to prove he's wrong? It's against natural justice. In the U.S., there's a presumption of innocence.
Yeah, not in the UK.
What's very gratifying to me is that it's exposing so many hundreds of thousands, millions of people to the distortion of truth, to how distorters work, liars, falsifiers, and it's doing it at a time that I think it has contemporary relevance.
How much money have you made out of that tattoo since 1945?
There are no holes in that roof. Therefore, there never were any gas chambers.
No holes, no Holocaust. He wanted a catchy phrase. He's got it.
I do what I always do, whether the character is regarded as a hero or the villain, or a mixture of the two. I ditch my own opinions, park them to one side, and entire concentration is trying to see it from their point of view. And anything that I don't know or I can't find out, one has to use one imagination to build a network of things that become a tool that you use to try and make a connection between yourself and the character.
Yes, sir, gentleman in the back.
Professor Lipstadt, I am that David Irving about whom you have been so rude. Yes, I am he. And it puzzles me that you think yourself qualified to attack me, given that I have 30 years' experience in the archives. And my books have been published by some of the greatest publishing houses in the world.
Do you think that process makes you more empathetic in real life, having to see the shades in people that on the surface aren't considered sort of good human beings? Or
I would like to think so. I think, obviously, we know there's a massive difference between sympathy and empathy. You know, I think as you get older, you can get more intolerant, or I sometimes suffer from this terrible thing of indecision where I can see both sides. I think that's probably a better thing than becoming more reactionary as you get older. So I do think that possibly that fault or whatever, virtue, whatever it might be, I make your own decision, does come out from having to go into the minds of people who are often fly in the face of conventional wisdom and often say things that are very upsetting and repugnant to many people. So, yeah, I think it is a good exercise in building, possibly, not always, but building your own humanity, because you're always having to work out what makes people tick.
I watched some clips of David Irving after seeing the film, and it is remarkable how close you get to his voice and mannerisms. How did you go about learning the technical aspects of his character?
The physicality, it's a carapace, it's an outside, but it's often, if you start from the outside, your job is then to come back further and further and in to see what produces that, what might be what is that person the product of. So, you know, and that sounds a bit weird and I suppose a bit strange to anybody who doesn't do the weird thing of being an actor, which is a bizarre way of earning a living anyway, but that's what your job is, to try and see it constantly from that person's point of view, to be able to embody a version of them in a dramatic, exercise.
Do you feel in this sort of age we live in of fake news and struggling to know what sources to trust, does this film have something to say about truth-seeking?
I think it does. Obviously, you know, in this case, David Irving is not a politician. He is a historian and a writer. And one of his motivations, I can only assume, as he says in it, was to protect his professional existence. Obviously, the views can be taken up and are taken up by people who hold views that are very unpleasant to people and controversial. But, you know, I think, you know, in an age when there are paradigm shifts of world power and insecurity, and old institutions and old states are being threatened, people get lost, and people, old, givens are under threat. People start looking for strong leaders. They start looking for people that say that they can sort things out. That doesn't necessarily mean that they can, but what they're saying appeals to a feeling in people because of some sense of disenfranchisement or some sense of fragility that they feel because their old worlds have changed. So it does point to the fact that there are ways of getting to the truth, and sometimes you have to go back to the old-fashioned, what people in this case, from Deborah Lipstadt's point of view, it looks mildly Dickensian and odd and strange. People in wigs going through this process that seem to have dusted out of old, wainscoted rooms. But eventually this system that has been built up over many, many hundreds of years does get to the truth. And maybe what we have to look at is, look, in a world where the truth seems to be up for grabs, there are old ways of looking at it. But it takes time, and it takes feeling. It takes feeling in connection with intellect rather than just intellect. One has to sometimes ditch the feeling, but use the feeling to make the intellect and the strength that go back to the roots of where the truth is.
Some people are saying that the result of this trial will threaten free speech. Now, I don't accept that. I'm not attacking free speech. On the contrary, I've been defending it against someone who wanted to abuse it.
False news. Stephen Colbert talks, the American, as I call him, comedian, social commentator, talks about truthiness. If I yell loudly enough, it's got to have a point. It's got to have stature. I believe it was the New Yorker magazine that not long ago had a cartoon of a quiz show, 2 contestants, and the host is saying to one of the contestants, "Yes, ma'am, your answer is correct, but your opponent yelled louder, so he gets the point." People feel they can yell loudly, they can insist, whether it's numbers at an inauguration, whether it's vaccine, whether it's history, whether it's terrorism, that if they make things up, but they insist on it, that it's got validity. There was one surreal moment where I was on the set, and I'm sitting sort of in a corner, and I heard one of the props people say to another one, "Do you have Deborah's glasses? Where's her jacket? And where's she going to sit?" And I said, "I'm sitting right here. I'm wearing my jacket. I'm wearing my glasses. What's this about?" And then I realized I was not the Deborah they were talking about, but it was Rachel Weisz. So that was a little bit of a weird moment.
It beggars belief. Why has there not been a proper scientific study of this whole site by reputable scientists? 50 years since the fact. I mean, it's ridiculous. Where's the proof? Where's the evidence? I need to know that.
You know what? This is a place where you show respect. Whoever you are, you show respect.
I have to ask some more questions. Would you be happier outside?